I was born because two people fell in love in a world that didn't allow them to stay together. My mother, Judith, came from a simple, hard-working home. My father came from a family so powerful and well-connected that their last name alone could open doors or shut them permanently. And that's exactly what it did to my parents. They met in college, the usual story, two smart, ambitious students who clicked immediately. But reality wasn't a romance novel. It was politics, class, expectations, and a family that valued status more than happiness. My father didn't fight hard enough. My mother didn't stand a chance. Their relationship existed only as long as college did. After graduation, he married the woman his family approved of. And I became the secret no one talked about. My mother moved back home to my grandmother, and that's where the real story starts, a small house full of warmth but heavy with the unspoken truth that I'd been born into the wrong class. My grandmother never complained. She raised me with pride, discipline, and quiet strength. She also didn't stop my father's family from sending money, gifts, and school fees. They took care of me financially, but always from a distance, a safe distance that didn't threaten their reputation. I learned early that privilege feels different when you didn't ask for it. It doesn't feel earned. It feels like a monthly reminder that you belong to two worlds and fully fit into neither. But here's the twist: I never wanted their name. I never wanted their seats at their fancy dinners. And I sure as hell didn't want their public approval. That's why I kept my mother's surname, the one that came with honesty, not politics. People assume gold diggers come from nothing. My story is the opposite. I came from everything and chose to walk away from it. That choice shaped every problem that was waiting for me years later. My father married the woman his family handpicked for him. Perfect background, perfect pedigree, perfect match. In their world, love was optional, status was. My mother moved on too. She refused to sit around waiting for a man who didn't fight for her. So I grew up with my maternal grandmother, the one person who loved me without politics or conditions. Let's get something straight. I didn't grow up suffering. I didn't lack money, comfort, or opportunities. My father's family made sure of that. They handled my tuition from kindergarten to college. Birthday gifts arrived like clockwork every year. I wasn't cut off, I was kept quiet. And I understood the difference very early. Whenever they invited me for dinners, I went, not because I felt connected to them, but because my grandmother said, never reject goodwill, even when it comes wrapped in arrogance. My father never mistreated me. He just didn't claim me publicly. He played the obedient son his parents wanted, and I was the shadow consequence of that obedience. Still, I made one decision that shaped my entire life. I chose my mother's surname. Not because I hated my father, but because I refused to be the girl who walked into rooms and watched people change how they treated her because of a name. I wanted to stand on my own merit. I didn't want shortcuts. I didn't want assumptions. And I didn't want the unearned respect that comes from being a somebody's child. And the funny part, no one ever questioned it. People simply assumed I was an ordinary girl from an ordinary home, and I let them. I preferred it that way. My grandmother was my real home. She carried me through every phase of my childhood. She taught me how to be grounded despite privilege and unshakable despite secrets. To everyone who knew me back then, I was just Abigail. Not the daughter of a powerful man. Not the girl with two worlds behind her. Just Abigail, and that anonymity was my greatest weapon. Little did I know how much I would need it later. No one knew my father, no one knew my background. I was Abigail to the world, ordinary, grounded, and unseen. But I had Erica, my childhood friend, my confidant, and later, my colleague at the marketing agency in Chicago. Erica knew everything about my past, and she never judged. That bond gave me stability in a world full of judgmental strangers. It was at a business presentation that I met William West. He walked in with confidence, charm, and a presence I couldn't ignore. We were introduced professionally, but the moment we spoke, I felt something click. It wasn't just chemistry. It was recognition, as if two people who had been waiting for the right timing finally found each other. We spent hours talking about projects, ideas, and ambitions. By the end of the presentation, Erica teased me relentlessly. Don't tell me you're crushing on the guy who probably doesn't even know your last name. I didn't care about names, I cared about him, and apparently he felt the same. But there was a barrier I couldn't ignore. William was from the West family. Powerful, wealthy, and complicated. Families like his had rules that couldn't be broken by charm or talent, and yet I didn't hesitate. I decided then and there to let the future take its course, one step at a time. But the storm of judgment and family politics that awaited us would test every decision I had ever made. 5 months later, William introduced me to his family. His brothers, Liam and Noah, were immediately welcoming. They laughed easily, teased me in ways that made me feel included, and seemed genuinely happy to see William with someone they approved of. For a moment, I thought it might be easier than I expected. Then there was Mr. West, Thaddeus West, the patriarch. Everything about him screamed control. His gaze pierced me like he already knew all my secrets and decided he hated them. The first words out of his mouth were cold, measured, and cutting. "What do you want with my son?" I smiled politely, hoping he'd mistake calm for confidence. I was wrong. He continued, "I hope you're not here for the money. Girls like you always follow money." He even whispered to William on the balcony later that night, "If you're going to marry this one, do a prenup." I heard it all and I noted it. Every insult, every assumption, every judgment. He didn't scare me. He would regret underestimating me. The West family would become my battlefield, and I was ready. Every family gathering after that felt like a test, one I had no intention of failing. Mr. West found endless ways to humiliate me, questioning my intentions, scrutinizing my every word, and comparing me silently to women who had sullied his family in the past. The most painful part, William didn't fight him, not out of weakness but loyalty. He obeyed his father because Mr. West had raised them after their mother left. Every argument I tried to have ended with William shrugging helplessly. But I endured. I learned to smile when I wanted to scream. I learned to listen when I wanted to argue. I learned patience, not because I had to, but because I knew my moment was coming. And that moment would come sooner than anyone imagined. We married the following year. The prenup signed, the ceremony perfect, but Mr. West's insults didn't end. They intensified. He never missed a chance to remind me where I stood in his family's hierarchy. Every word, every glance was loaded with the assumption that I was chasing money. I didn't fight him publicly. I let him talk, let him judge, let him underestimate me. William stayed quiet beside me, caught between the loyalty to his father and his love for me. I understood him, but it didn't make enduring the constant snubs any easier. I had to survive, not just for my dignity, but for the quiet plan I was building behind the scenes. Mr. West would learn, eventually, that the woman he mocked had far more power than he could imagine. It was 9 p.m. when Noah called, panicked. He was trying to reach William, who was out of the country. I answered, and immediately I knew something was wrong. Noah's voice shook as he told me. Loan sharks had stormed the house and beaten Mr. West. They warned they would return. He owed them $35,000. Mr. West had gambling problems. He borrowed from the wrong people to cover his debts. And now the family was in real danger. I stayed calm. I had to. William wasn't there and no one else could fix this. I understood one truth instantly. This was my moment to act, not as a daughter-in-law, not as a wife, but as someone with the resources and brains to solve a crisis the family didn't even see coming. The moment I hung up with Noah, I knew exactly what I had to do. My father. If anyone knew the dangerous people operating in that area, it would be him. I dialed his number without hesitation. Abigail, his voice carried a tinge of surprise. Dad, I need names, Loan Sharks, Chicago, right now. There was a pause, then I'll get back to you. An hour later he called. He had the full list, every dangerous man, every known method, every escape route. I listened quietly, taking mental notes. I didn't panic, I didn't argue, I just mapped out the plan in my head. These people were about to meet the wrong Abigail West. I called the Loan Sharks myself. The line clicked. "This is Abigail West," I said. "I'm paying off the debt." Silence, then a skeptical laugh. "And who do you think you are?" "I'm the person who solves problems other people are too scared to handle," I replied coldly. "I'll transfer the money tomorrow. No excuses, no delays." The line went quiet again. I knew they didn't expect a woman to take control. That ignorance was going to work in my favor. The next morning I handled the transaction myself. Every penny, every detail. I made sure the loan sharks knew exactly who I was, why I was paying, and that I expected no further trouble. By noon, the debt was cleared. Mr. West's name was clean. His enemies had been dealt with quietly, efficiently, and without any public spectacle. He didn't even know the woman he had mocked had just saved him from ruin. I didn't announce my actions. No one needed to know, not William, not his father, not anyone. I wanted the effect to be pure, natural, unexpected. When William returned, Mr. West told him what had happened, and in that moment the patriarch had no words for me, no accusations, no judgment, only a stunned realization that the person he had belittled, the gold digger he despised, had been the family's savior. William looked at me differently that day. For the first time he understood not just who I was, but what I was capable of. You did this?" he asked, disbelief in his voice. I nodded calmly. It had to be done. His respect was immediate, unspoken. The silent tension in our marriage shifted. We no longer were just partners. We were allies, a united front against the very man who had underestimated me. From that day, Mr. West stopped his remarks. The constant accusations, the thinly veiled insults, the public humiliation, all disappeared. I introduced my family to William and his brothers, Liam and Noah, and even to Mr. West himself. Their surprise was almost entertaining. They had expected an ordinary woman, a gold digger, someone beneath them. Instead, I had arrived fully prepared, fully capable, and fully respected. The game had changed, but they didn't yet realize that this was only the beginning. Mr. West didn't speak against me anymore, but I could feel the tension in the air every time I entered the room. His silence wasn't approval, it was shock, confusion, and maybe even fear. I let him stew. Every glance, every remark unspoken reminded him that his assumptions had been wrong. He thought I was beneath him. He thought I would crumble under his intimidation. He had underestimated me, and I was not about to correct him. Power isn't always loud, sometimes it's quiet, and I was learning to wield it flawlessly. Liam and Noah had always liked me, but now the respect had deepened. They knew I wasn't a woman to be trifled with. Liam laughed and teased me openly. "So you're the woman who bylaid Dad out. I'll never look at you the same way again." Noah nodded, impressed but cautious. "You're dangerous in the best way." I smiled quietly. The family dynamics were shifting, allies were forming, and Mr. West's authority, which once seemed untouchable, was slowly eroding without a single word from. I met Erica for lunch, and she was immediately curious. "You didn't just pay off a debt, did you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "I did," I said simply. She shook her head. "Abby, you're fearless. I don't know if I'd ever do that." I shrugged. Sometimes you have to act when others are too blind or too scared. The key is timing and precision. Erica's admiration warmed me. She was my moral compass, my safe space, and the one person who understood why I did what I did, for justice, for strategy, for long-term results. Mr. West tried subtlety next. He asked William to handle certain family matters without consulting me, clearly trying to remind everyone who was in charge. I played along, smiled, nodded, watched. Every action he took now looked ineffective. Every attempt to assert control only highlighted how much he had misjudged me, and I savored the irony silently. One evening, William pulled me aside. "I can't believe how you handled everything. My father, he doesn't deserve that, but I don't know what I would have done without you." I leaned close, almost whispering, "You'll never have to wonder again." It wasn't about gratitude. It was about recognition, the recognition that I was a partner in every sense, capable of carrying what others could not. A family dinner brought the shift into sharp focus. Mr. West barely spoke, and when he did, it was carefully measured. Every eye in the room, including his, saw a new Abigail, calm, competent, unshakable. The brothers, the family, even distant relatives. All noticed I was no longer the girl he tolerated. I was the woman who held the cards. And I was just getting started. I realized revenge didn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it was about small, deliberate moves that left an impression. I began taking initiative in family matters, booking events, coordinating gatherings, giving advice on investments. William's brothers noticed, Mr. West noticed. The difference now, they couldn't question me. Every suggestion I made worked. Every plan succeeded. Mr. West never said it aloud, but his eyes betrayed the realization. The woman he had ridiculed could outperform him quietly, efficiently, and without needing approval. Erica called one evening, concerned. "Abby, don't let this go to your head. Your father-in-law may respect you now, but his ego he won't forgive easily if he feels humiliated." I laughed lightly. "I'm not here to humiliate him. I'm here to survive and to make sure the family sees what I'm capable of. He'll learn soon enough." She sighed, "Just be careful, people like him don't forget." I understood the warning, but caution didn't scare me, it sharpened me. One evening, Mr. West tried a subtle test. He left me out of a high-level decision regarding an investment, clearly expecting failure or embarrassment. I stayed silent, observed, and then stepped in at the exact right moment, correcting an error, preventing a potential disaster, and guiding the conversation seamlessly. The result, his silence was louder than any praise. Every eye in the room saw it. He had underestimated me and he would never admit it, but now it was clear. I wasn't just capable, I was necessary. William's respect and love deepened with every silent victory I claimed. One night he told me softly, "You know, I've never been prouder of anyone. Not just for what you did, but for how you handle everything with patience and precision." I smiled. Patience is a weapon, precision is power, and you'll see the results soon enough. He knew I was right. And he knew our dynamic had shifted from two people surviving a family problem to two people quietly running the game. Liam and Noah began consulting me on decisions they used to make independently. They trusted my judgment, they admired my strategy, and Mr. West noticed. He didn't say anything, not aloud, but subtle glances, half-smiles and occasional nods revealed it. He could no longer control the narrative. Abigail West was a presence, a force, and he had created it by underestimating me. The real test came unexpectedly. A family investment went south, and everyone assumed Mr. West would handle it. I stepped in quietly, analyzed the problem, and provided a solution that saved the deal entirely. No fanfare, no drama, just results. The West family, including Mr. West himself, watched in stunned silence. Abigail West, the gold digger, had just saved them again, and this time the stakes were higher, the impact undeniable. The family dynamics had shifted completely. Mr. West no longer spoke to belittle me. His silence was heavier than his words had ever been. Every suggestion I made, every action I took, subtly reminded him who had actually saved the family. He watched, he observed, and the realization burned. Abigail West was not just part of the family, she had become indispensable. William's brothers, Liam and Noah, began seeking my advice on everything: investments, scheduling, even minor family disputes. Their respect was genuine and unwavering, and Mr. West, he didn't have the words to counter it. For the first time, I saw him consider that perhaps he had misjudged the woman he called a gold digger. But pride and ego still bound him. He would never admit it aloud. That was fine, I didn't need him to. Erica visited, smiling knowingly. "You've done it, Abby. You've turned their world upside down without anyone noticing except you." I laughed softly. The best revenge is quiet, measured, and impossible to argue with, and it's far more satisfying when it's not loud. She shook her head, impressed. "Just be careful with your father-in-law. He's not used to being shown up by anyone, let alone a woman he underestimated." I understood the warning, but caution never scared me. Control did. Mr. West's subtle attempts to regain authority failed spectacularly. Every time he tried to assert dominance, my quiet competence rendered him ineffective. One evening, he asked William to handle a minor issue without me, assuming I would falter. I solved it before William could act. The room went silent. His shock was visible, though his pride refused to acknowledge it. He realized, privately and painfully, that I was no ordinary daughter-in-law. I was a force. One evening, William sat down with me. "I don't know how you did it," he said, voice low. "I had no idea how much control you actually had, or how quickly you would take it." I smiled. "You think I'm just reactive? I plan ahead, William, every step, every move. That's why I've always known exactly what to do." He shook his head, stunned but grateful. The man who had once obeyed blindly now understood fully who his partner was, and why she had become unstoppable. The final turning point in Mr. West's perception came during a family meeting. I proposed a solution to a lingering problem that had stumped the Wests for months. He watched in silence as I outlined every detail, predicted every potential problem, and provided a foolproof resolution. No one spoke, not because I demanded silence, but because the room had no words. For the first time, Mr. West realized his assumptions about me were completely wrong. The girl he mocked, the gold digger, had outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outperformed him at every turn. And he would never forget it. Word spread quietly through the family. Abigail West was not the woman they expected. She had handled crises, saved the family's reputation, and outmaneuvered Mr. West at every turn. Even distant relatives and family friends began treating me with respect. No one dared question my position. The girl they assumed was after money had proven herself indispensable. And Mr. West? He sat quietly, pride wounded but recognition undeniable. One evening I found Mr. West alone in the study. He didn't speak at first. Then slowly, "I underestimated you." I looked at him calmly. "You weren't alone in that mistake." It wasn't an apology, it wasn't submission, but it was respect. A grudging acknowledgement that I had done what no one else could and done it flawlessly. The shift was complete. The game had changed, silently, irreversibly. William's pride in me was clear, and for the first time he didn't hide it. "I've never known anyone who could do what you did. You saved everyone and did it with style." I smiled. Style is irrelevant, results matter. That's the only language people understand. His admiration wasn't just about the debt or the power moves. It was about seeing the woman he loved become unstoppable, independent, and brilliant. Liam and Noah's respect for me was now fully cemented. They no longer saw me as an outsider. "Abby, you're untouchable," Liam said once, joking but with sincerity. "Better watch it, Mom," Noah teased, referring to Mr. West. "She might just run the family someday." I laughed, but inside I knew the truth. The West family's power structure had quietly shifted. I was no longer just a daughter-in-law, I was a key player. Mr. West had learned his lesson the hard way. Underestimate Abigail West, and she would not just survive, she would dominate. He never made another remark about money, intentions, or status. He didn't need to. His silence spoke volumes. Respect replaced scorn, acknowledgement replaced insults. And though he would never admit it aloud, he knew he owed everything to the woman he once thought he controlled. Finally, I introduced my family, my maternal grandmother, my mother, my father, who had always been distant but supportive, and Erica. The Wests were shocked. The woman they thought was chasing money had hidden a network, a history, and a support system of influence they hadn't anticipated. Mr. West's gaze met mine, and I could see the acknowledgement. "You were right to underestimate her until now." By now, everyone in the West family had witnessed it. Abigail West was no ordinary woman. Mr. West's silence spoke louder than any words ever could. William's brothers looked at me with admiration. William held my hand a little tighter, pride in his eyes. And Mr. West, he finally understood that the woman he had mocked, questioned, and ridiculed had done what no one else could. I didn't gloat, I didn't need to. The results spoke for themselves. For once, the so-called patriarch had no power over me. The game had shifted, completely and irreversibly. The debt crisis had passed. The family's reputation remained intact. Mr. West no longer made any comments about money or intentions. I had delivered justice without drama, without confrontation, and without anyone realizing how methodical I had been. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers, quietly rearranging power, proving a point, and leaving the perpetrators stunned. And that's exactly what happened. The woman he underestimated had not only survived, but emerged stronger, smarter, and fully respected. It was over. The West family had changed, and so had I. I had endured insults, disrespect, and constant judgment. I had been called a gold digger, laughed at, and underestimated. But I had acted when it mattered. I had used my resources, my intelligence, and my timing to turn humiliation into triumph. From that day forward, Mr. West never made remarks about me again. William, his brothers, and even distant relatives treated me as an equal. I had earned their respect, not with arrogance, but with precision, patience, and courage. And the final, quiet truth remained: the woman who had been underestimated had won. Entirely. I was Abigail West, and everyone who doubted me had learned exactly who I was.